Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we'll take a look at the custom strip that I bought online. So he already came like this. As you can see, his colors is not just plastic colors, but it's got some battle damage all over him. And he already came like this when I bought him. This guy is a KO oversized figures of the A of Extinction Deluxe class strip. So let's take him down and take a closer look. Here's the closer look at our Strafe. You can see here he's pretty big. It's not that he's very close to the camera, but it's just that his wingspan is pretty big. So firstly, looking at the head over here, you can see that there's a lot of weathering effects going throughout his head. His neck in here as well. His body, this chest basically is the same chest as the robot mode. And then for the feet here, we also see weathering effects all over the place. Then here's his wings. Also have a lot of weathering effect as well, although mostly just black color. Then we have the tails here. Also black colors with a bit of weathering effects. And then on the left wing over here also just black colors mainly with a bit of silver weathering effects. Then here's how it looks on this side. And here is the front look with two heads. It's pretty menacing. Here's the downside of the figures from bottom up. That's the robot head. Couldn't really hide it away very well. Here's how it looks top down. So it's pretty decent. It's look pretty much like the Deluxe class strip that we have. Although there's actually so many things that is different in here and not for the better. But at least he looked good. Let's take a look at some of the size comparisons so that we know we have some ideas of how big he is. So here's how he's standing next to Studio Series Bumblebee number 49. You can see that in here they scale really nice. So like Bumblebee is small enough so that he can actually ride on the back of Strafe. Let's do some decent pose for him. Take a look at that. Bumblebee can now ride on Strafe. We have Optimus ride on Grimlock. We have Crosshair ride on Scorn. We have Rift ride on Slugs. And then now we have Bumblebee riding on this Strafe. This looks pretty nice. This is the whole reason why I bought this guy. Mainly because he's big enough to scale with some of the Studio Series figures. Of course, this scale is still not perfect. It's pretty far from perfect actually, because in the official scale, this strip is supposed to be 60 feet tall in terms of robot mode, and Bumblebee is only 16 feet tall in robot mode, so it's like it's almost 4 times the height of Bumblebee. So of course, when he converts into his Dino mode, he should be very big in comparison to Bumblebee as well. But I guess this is the best we can do for now. At least it's way better than the Deluxe class strip. And if we displace him in some specific angle, they actually look pretty nicely together. If we just leave Bumblebee standing down here, then you say you can see that Bumblebee is still shorter than Strip to a certain degree, and that is pretty nice. If we bring in Stinger, the two of them battle on strips, so that's why it's very important for us to see the whole size scale difference between those three. Here's our Stinger, and again, a similar size to Bumblebee, so he's much smaller than this specific strip right here. With this scale alone, and this display, I think it's already worth it for this big guy right here. That's his own purpose. His whole purpose is just to be a display pieces that go together with Stinger and Bumblebee. How nice that. Here's the side look for him. And Stinger and Bumblebee. So from the side, you see that he's around that big. His head is big enough to actually eat the Stinger head. Although there's some lack of articulation that we can talk about right now, some of the most disappointing thing is that this guy, his mouth cannot be open or closed. So you can see that there's no jaws over here. They already took away the jaws in here, so his mouth cannot be open or closed. And then they also took away the neck jaw, so his head cannot be turned up or down. That's a major disappointing fact about his figures, his lack of certain important articulation. So we can't really open his mouth up and then let him eat Stinger head. That's not possible unless we just take off the head and then just try to squeeze it in here. It will fit in there, but the head could not be open or closed. So that's one disappointing about this guy, but other than that, if we only use him for displacing purposes, I think it's pretty good. Of course, the color is still not very accurate, but it's still better than the original colors. As you can see in here, it's lime green color. That's definitely not gonna fit in anywhere. But later on, because of this inaccurate color, I'll do some repainting figures, repainting video for this guy as well, so looking out for that. Okay, let's put in some other figures so we can see the scale differences in here. So here's we have 30th series Lockdown next to this Dinobot Strafe. Lockdown is supposed to be 22 feet tall, and then if we just go by this scale, just approximate scale, then I guess that if he stand up like this, and if we assume that he's around 30 feet tall, then that is pretty good. That will be fairly good. Let's put in something like 30th series. Well, not 30th series. The last 9 Megatron. The last 9 Megatron. That's how they look together. Honestly, it's pretty nice. If you notice that they have roughly around the same color scheme, that's because I bought them from the same seller, so probably they try to customize them pretty much the same way, just a black wash over all of the figures and then just do silver reversing effects. Fairly simple but fairly effective as well. Look at them. Then let's take this guy out and put in something else. That's how he scale with 30 series Hot Rod. Hot Rod's another tiny guy. Because he's tiny, he actually fit in pretty well with this Deluxe strip. Okay, take him out. And even have a small custom figures. This one is a custom of the Trumpeter Bumblebee figures, but just want him to look like a generic KSI troop from the Age of Extinction movie. This guy is smaller than the Deluxe class from the 30th series, so it's scaled even better with this Deluxe strip. This oversized Deluxe strip, he's no longer Deluxe size. So you can see in here, it's small enough to be wrapped by this strip, and then just look at how different the size between the whole figures and the head of this strip. That is pretty good. It's small enough to actually ride strip. That actually look way better than Bumblebee, simply because he's smaller. So he scale better with this guy. Okay, let's take him out and then put in Rift. Another figures from Extinction. So you can see that another smaller guys in here. So in the movie, Rip slugs, not Strafe. But you can see that they actually look pretty good scaling together as well. So that's how it looks like next to Rift. Let's put in Crosshair. Here's how it looks next to Crosshair. Another smaller guy. And yeah, they look very nice together. He's a big bird with two different heads. If you post him somewhere flying down like this, it looks very menacing. Oh my gosh, that looks pretty nice. Too bad I don't think I have enough upper display space actually leave him flying like this. Maybe I can figure something out with this. Okay, let's put him in next to Galvatron. So I can see that Galvatron is a little too big for this guy. Galvatron is supposed to be 30 feet tall. So in Dino mode, this guy's also around this high, maybe taller than Galvatron a little bit, so like 30 something, at most 40 feet tall. That would be the scale we convert to movie scale. So fairly decent. Of course, this guy's still too small. He needs to be way bigger than Galvatron, but for now, that still serves. Let's put him in next to another figure from Extinction, Hal. So you can see that Hal is a big boy. Hal is totally out of scale in comparison to this Dinobot strip. Hal's supposed to be 24 feet tall, supposed to be shorter than Galvatron, like 6 feet shorter than Galvatron. But in figure form, he's really big. He's way thicker than Galvatron. So when display comes together, you have to do some creative displaying. Otherwise, Hal is just gonna look too big next to this Dinobot strip. Okay, let's take him out. Let's keep some human figures in here so we see how big he is in comparison to the human. So this human figure is the one that actually comes with the Studio Series Bumblebee. So you see that this guy is tiny in comparison to a Dinobot, and that's how he should be. So if you look at him, if he's 6 feet tall, then that's gonna be 12, 18, 24, 30 up here. So yeah, I guess around 30 feet tall in Dinobot mode. Still pretty cool. The human figure is actually small enough to actually ride this guy. Look at that. Look at the scale difference. That's pretty cool. I always like to see bigger figures being displayed next to a smaller one. And if they are close to their actual scale in the movie, that's gonna be even more perfect. Okay, so let's talk about some articulation that he's lacks. So earlier we already talked about his head. His head doesn't have neck articulation or mouth articulation, but this guy not only lacked that, but he also lacked articulation inside the head of the robot mode in here. So you can see that in here, we can only turn his head up or down like this. There's no neck joint, so he can't turn left or right. There's no bone joint in there, there's also no swivel. So the only thing you can do is this transformation joint, just turning his head up or down. So that's one thing. This guy also have waist articulation in here, but it's a little loose. And then down here, another disappointing thing is that we have no knee joint. So he can't turn his knee like that. he only have a swivel to turn left or right. The only choice that he has down here is the transformation joy. So in robot mode, you can treat this as your knee joy, but it doesn't look natural because the knee is like way too down here. The knee should be up here. So I think for the Deluxe class strip, they actually have this joy being functional right here. But for this KO, they just took out that joy, so that's another choice that we lose, which is rather disappointing. And then this guy also doesn't have the swivel in here for his robot mode, so he has a gorilla arm essentially, so his arm can only go like this with that swivel, but at least he still have the bone joy here, so he can still move his arm up or down. Okay, so because we already have transformed, so let's transform this guy fully loop. It's very easy, so basically just unplug his arm from the wings over here, leave it down like that, and then for the leg, we basically just flip them down, rotate, and then just flip this up here. It doesn't plug in or anything, but it's just gonna stay there. Like for the foot of the Dinobot, just a slot here that's gonna be packed in. Actually, it doesn't pack in, but I'm just gonna rest in there. So that's how he look like right now. And then for the Dinobot head, of course, just bring him out, bring this in, and then close this in. So just cool this down and then close in the head like that. And then now we have the big wingspan. So for the wingspan, it depends on how we like our figures to be displayed like. You can lift them up like that, of course not movie accurate, but it looks more menacing, so it gives an impression that he's bigger due to the big wingspan. Otherwise, you can just close this wing, just lift them in a resting position like this, and that would be it. Oh, it's like come off. So this is, as you can see in here, this is the original colors from the original figures. It's just lime green like that. And then for the peg holes here, you can see that it's kind of plastic bluish or grayish color. So those are the original colors of this figure. It looks very cheaply made, and it is cheaply made as well. The clear evidence for that is the many articulation joints that they took out that I just talked about earlier. So here is his final look in robot mode. His joints are pretty loose as well, so if you actually buy this guy, I would suggest that we do something to tighten up the joint. Okay, so that will be how he's look like in robot mode. Still pretty decent. Strafe design is actually one of the one that I think is the best from a Extinction movie. He look very badass, especially for the figures. For the Deluxe class figure, it still look very good. At the time that it came out, I thought out of all of the Autobot figures from Extinction, this guy looked the best. And I think that still stays true until today. Of course, some of the other figures like Scorn, he got a new figures in the last night movie. And those figures look way better than his Extinction one. And then for Grimlock, he got his 30th series figures. So of course, that 30th series figures is way better than the Extinction or the last night figures. But this guy, we still haven't gotten any new updated 30th series version yet. So currently, I think this guy is still the best. It's better than the Deluxe class in terms of scaling, at least. So let's bring in some figures like Bumblebee so we can see the scale difference again. So that's how they look together. In robot mode, this guy's way taller. And that's how he look like next to Bumblebee. He's a tiny guy. Bumblebee is supposed to be 16 feet tall. So if we look at 16 like that, then this gonna be 32. That's just a little more than 32. So like 32 plus with another human figure, so that's gonna be 6 feet. Oh wow, that's like 38 feet or something, 38 feet up to here, and maybe like 40 feet up to here, or a little more than 40. So yeah, it's not very accurate because in the movie, Strafe is supposed to be 60 feet tall versus Bumblebee is supposed to be 16 feet tall. Almost 4 the size of Bumblebee. But clearly we don't see that in here. But oh well, that's the best we can guess. And then let's bring in Stinger as well, so you can see both of these figures standing next to Shred. Those are the two that actually interact with Shred the most from the Extinction movie through their battle. Look at that. They look very nice together. Very nice. That's how it looks next to Stinger alone. Let's put in here. Stingers, very tiny. And then let's bring in a different figure so we can see the scale. So this is a core class Mohawk. So that's how it looks like next to a core class figures. Of course, it tower over this core class Mohawk figures. They never interact with one another in their movie. Like in the last night, Strafe didn't even appear. But if they do appear next to one another, I think that could be nice. Of course, they will be on different sides that have to fight one another. So there's no way a core class can fight with something bigger than a leader class like this. So here's how he stands next to Galvatron. Decent scale. Galvatron is supposed to be 30 feet tall and this guy is 60, so should be twice the size of Galvatron. So to be accurate, he has to be that tall. Like all the way up to my finger up there. That's twice the size of Galvatron. But yeah, that's a little too big. Hopefully in the future we can see some other improved version. But for now, this is the biggest one that we can get on the market. Let's put in Crosshair. This is how it looks like next to Crosshair. Decent scale. Pretty nicely together. Then let's put in Rift. That is actually matched really well together. One is a samurai and then the other one is an Asian knight figures. So then I think their aesthetic, they fit pretty well to one another, especially when we start to give this guy some weapon. Let's take him out. Then actually let's try something else. Let's give him Studio Series number 32 or 44 or the 15th anniversary Optimus. They all have the same scale and the same mold. This one is their 15th anniversary Optimus. So you can see that is the scale. So we do know that we have an Extinction Optimus coming out for the Studio Series. We still don't know whether that will be the Evasion Mode Optimus or a 9 Optimus. But I would assume that even though that one will be a leader class figure, it's gonna be around the same scale at this specific Voyager Optimus over here. So we can expect something around this high or just barely taller. So that will be the scale that Optimus will be right next to this strip right here. So actually that's not bad. Not too bad. Still a little big in comparison to Strip, but it's fine. That's decently enough. Okay, let's talk about accessories. So this guy have a bunch of accessories. He has this sword right here. So of course this also have some weathering effects, but it's only on the handle of the sword. There's nothing on the blade of the sword. So that is how big the sword is, just for some scale comparison. This is how the sword is next to Bumblebee. So you can see that the sword is very tall, very big in comparison to Bumblebee. That's his first weapon. The second one is a crossbow. So this crossbow also appears in the Deluxe class Strafe figures. They basically just upscale this weapon and then give to him. So that will be his main weapon. Then these figures also come with some other accessories that he doesn't even use in the movie. For example, this gun right here. Actually, until now, I still don't recognize what gun this is from any of the figures. I don't know whether any of the figure actually have this gun, or they just make up a gun and give to these figures. But this is what we have, and this gun actually functional as well. So we actually have some bullet to go with the gun. So basically, just plug them in. Some of the bullet they stay, and some of the other one they just don't stay. But if they actually stay like this, then you can actually shoot the weapon. Oh, I lost my bullet. I'm gonna pick it up later. But yeah, this gun is functional. We have 3 bullets to go with this. For the crossbow, we have 3 different arrows to go with it. Of course, functional as well, just like the Deluxe class. So if you plus like that, it should fairly work, depending on how strongly you push. But it should fire up like that. So of another functional weapon. And then we also have the shield that go with this figure. So this shield is basically just an Optimus figure shield, but it's got upscale. And then it also have some weathering effect. So this one, the original colors is just black plastic colors, as you can see from the back side right here. And then they basically just do some bright brushing with the silver colors on here. It looks very nice from the, of course, from the front, but from the back there's no color, there's no decoration here. It's not even filled out. Another interesting thing is that on the weapon, you actually have 2 different style port. So the smaller style port actually fit in with any of the Studio Series figures. For example, Bumblebee over here, you can just plug in that port right into his hand, and they fit. And then a bigger port will fit onto this arm with the bigger port. So I thought that was pretty neat. So if you want to, you can give this shield to your other figures, like 30 series scale. Of course, this is an oversized shield, so it's not gonna look nice next to anything in the Studio series, but that's still an option. So as I mentioned earlier, he has multiple arrows, 3 in total, and 3 different bullets. I already lost one. Gonna pick the other one up later, but those are all of the accessories that we get with these figures. That's still quite a lot with the figures like this. Okay, now let's give him his weapon so that it look nicer and more intimidating. So basically just plug in. Actually, it's pretty tight. It's a really tight fit. Another difference is that, but this time is a positive things in comparison to the original figures. That is, for the hand, you actually have the swivel right here. So you can now swivel the hand for some reason. But other than that, some of the main articulation was lost, like the knee joint here, the head joint there, and then the head joint for the Dinobot head. They were lost, but there, at least the silver lining is that we now have this joint. This joint is the only joint that is absent on the original figures. Okay, let's take away his other weapon. Put them back here, put them back here. Let's give him his sword as well. So his swords also fit in very tightly, so it's not gonna go anywhere. Because of this hand articulation over here, he actually can pose with his sword really nicely. Like he can even like point his sword face right at the front like that. I think that looks really nice. But other than that, his articulation is very limited, and then his jaws are very loose as well. And because he has this big wing over here, but it tries to represent the cape that he has in Extinction. But this is very heavy. As for the tails, there's one thing I forgot to mention earlier. That's for the tail on the original figures. They actually like rubbery plastic, so you can actually twist the tails or put it in any of the direction that you want to. But in here, it's not possible to do that because they are just made of hard plastic in this case. So they're gonna just stay like that, but because the plastic are fairly thin, so it can actually articulate this a little bit. You can move it a little bit, but if you move it too much, it's gonna get broken. So he's quite back heavy. That's why he tends to fall backward like that. And along coupling with the loose jaws that he has all over his body, especially on his legs, he's gonna have some trouble standing up. But now let's do some main comparison, because we would all wonder how would he look next to the other Dinobot, right? So let's bring in the leader of the Dinobot, Grimlock. Of course, this Grimlock is not the 30th series one, because the 30th series one is way too small in comparison to the 30th series. So in order to make Grimlock look a little nicer next to 30th series figures, I actually bought these oversized figures from B&B, which is a knockoff company from China. So here's how Strafe look like next to Grimlock. So if we look at the scale, for those two, they actually look really nicely together. So Grimlock officially is supposed to be 84 feet tall. And then for Strafe, he's supposed to be 60 feet tall. So I think this scale worked out perfectly. Actually perfect. Next to one another, of course, this wouldn't scale well with the smaller figures. But at least for those two big guys, they look very accurate together. So that should be around the correct scale that they would have in the movie. Okay, let's bring in another figures from the Dinobot team. This time will be Scorn, another oversized figures. So this Scorn is the oversized version of the last night Voyager Scorn, also being made from B&B, the knockoff company from China. That's look pretty nicely. So Scorn should be 87 feet tall, which is 3 feet taller than Grimlock. And I think they scale really nicely together. This Strafe and the two Dinobots that we already have. So in Extinction, we only have 4 Dinobots. Now we already have 3. 3 that look really nicely together. Of course, this Strafe is a little out of place because his articulation is not there, his movie detail is not as intricate as the other two Dinobot. But with a custom paint job, I think they would look fairly nice together, like not totally out of place. What do you think? Of course, the colors right now is not very accurate. Grimlock is green like that, so it's fairly accurate already, and this Scorn already looked nice when I bought him with this color scheme. For Strafe, he should be more of bluish or greenish color with a little of silver or rusty. So because of that, I'm gonna have to fix his colors so that he can blend in a little better with the other two Dinobot that we have in here. So for that, I'll do a custom repaint videos for these Strafe figures. So if you're interested, be on the lookout for that videos. Hey, you. Yes, you. Subscribe to our channel. Please, otherwise, Megatron might kill me again. And no, I'm not kidding. He's right there. Hey, Josh. So please, subscribe. I don't want to be back in two pieces. Your subscription means a lot to us.